She stood there under the fireflies, the ring in his hand, the whole world quiet around them. And Amy Fleming said nothing. Not yes, not no, just silence. That one moment froze millions of Heartland fans in their seats and sent the entire fandom into a meltdown that is still going on today. Nathan got down on one knee. He poured his whole heart out, and the woman he loves just stood there. So what does that silence mean? Is Amy finally ready to love again after losing Ty? Or is she about to break the heart of the one man who never gave up on her? That is exactly what we are going to break down today. We are going to go through everything that happened between Amy and Nathan, what it all means, and what could be coming in season 20. Because trust me, the story is far from over. If you have been watching Heartland for a long time, you already know that after Ty Borden died, the show had one of the biggest challenges any long-running drama can face. How do you move the heart of your story forward when the love of the main character's life is gone? Ty was not just Amy's husband. He was the soul of the show. He was the reason millions of people tuned in every single week. So when he was gone, the question was not just about Amy's love life. It was about whether Heartland could survive at all without him. And then came Nathan Price. Nathan did not show up on a white horse making big speeches. He did not try to replace Ty or pretend he could fill that space. He just showed up. He was quiet. He was steady. He was the kind of man who would sit next to you in the dark and not say a word, and somehow that would be enough. Nathan Price Jr., played by Spencer Lord, is a rancher. He lives and works on the land next to Heartland, and from the very beginning, the writers built his character around one simple idea. He is patient. He is not in a rush. He is willing to wait for Amy for as long as it takes, and that is actually what made fans start paying attention to him, because after everything Amy went through, after all the grief and the pain and the years of carrying Ty's memory on her shoulders, the last thing she needed was someone who was going to push her. She needed someone who understood that her heart was still healing. Nathan seemed to understand that without her ever having to explain it to him. He would show up to help on the ranch. He would talk to her about horses, about the land, about the small everyday things. And slowly, without either of them really planning it, something started to grow between them. But before we talk about what that something turned into, you have to understand where Nathan came from and why his family situation made everything so much more complicated. Nathan is not just a simple rancher next door. He is part of the Price family, and the Price family comes with baggage, big baggage. His family runs Price Beef, which is a major ranching operation, and there are people in that family who did not exactly roll out the welcome mat for Amy Fleming. That tension was always sitting underneath every quiet, gentle moment between Amy and Nathan. Every time things started to feel warm and safe between them, there was something in the background threatening to pull it all apart. And the biggest threat in that background had a name: Gracie Price. But we will get to her. Because first, you need to understand what the early days of Amy and Nathan actually looked like. Because if you missed seasons 18 and 19, you missed the slow build of one of the most careful and thoughtful romances Heartland has ever written. This was not a fast love story. This was not two people falling into each other's arms in the first episode. This was a love story that moved like the seasons change on a ranch. Slowly, quietly, and with so much weight behind every single moment. The first time fans really started to feel something between Amy and Nathan was during a simple moment of cloud gazing. They were lying on the ground looking up at the sky, and there was nothing dramatic happening. No big confession, no dramatic music swell, just two people being still together. And that was the moment the show told you everything you needed to know about what this relationship was going to be. It was going to be built on peace, on stillness, on two people who had both been through hard things finding comfort in each other's company. That moment hit fans differently than most romance scenes in the show had before. Because it was so real. It felt like something that could actually happen between two people on a ranch in Alberta. And that realness is what made people start rooting for Nathan. Even the fans who were still holding onto Ty's memory with both hands. Nobody warned Amy Fleming that healing could feel this complicated. She had done the hard part. She had survived losing Ty. She had raised Lindy on her own. She had kept working, kept breathing, kept showing up to the barn every single morning, even on the days when getting out of bed felt impossible. She had done all of that. And then Nathan Price walked quietly into her life and made her feel something she was not ready to feel. Something warm, something hopeful, something that scared her more than grief ever did. Because grief was familiar. But this feeling of wanting someone again, of letting someone in again, that was brand new territory. And brand new territory on a ranch can get dangerous fast. Season 19 picked up right where the emotional tension of season 18 left off. Amy and Nathan had shared that kiss by the water. The fans had seen it. The writers had finally given the audience the moment they had been waiting for. But instead of the story moving into easy, happy romance after that, the show did something smarter. It made things harder. Because real love, the kind that comes after real loss, does not just slide into place like a missing puzzle piece. It fights. It stumbles. It sits in a truck outside a house for 10 minutes trying to decide whether to go inside or just drive away. And that is exactly what season 19 showed us. One of the heaviest storylines of the season came when Amy and Nathan went on the Pike River trip together. On the surface, it looked like a working trip. Horses, open land, wide skies. The kind of setting Heartland does better than almost any other show on television. But underneath all of that beauty, Amy was carrying something heavy. Every quiet moment on that trip pulled her back to Ty. A certain smell in the air, the sound of the river at night, the way the stars looked from the campsite, all of it kept dragging her back to memories she had not fully let go of. And Nathan could feel it. He was right there next to her, and he could feel that part of her was somewhere else entirely. This is what made Nathan's character so layered in season 19. A lesser man would have said something, would have pushed, would have asked why she kept going quiet or why she sometimes looked at him like she was looking through him at someone standing just behind him. But Nathan did not do any of that. He just stayed. He kept showing up. He kept being steady. And for Amy, that steadiness was both a comfort and a source of guilt. Because she could feel herself pulling away from him even as she appreciated everything he was giving her. She was caught between two versions of herself. The version that was still Ty's wife, even in memory, and the version that was slowly, painfully becoming someone new. Then came the moment that really split the fandom down the middle. Caleb came back into the picture. Now, if you know Heartland, you know that Caleb O'Dell is not just a side character. He carries history with almost everyone at Heartland Ranch. He and Amy have a friendship that goes back years, and there has always been a certain kind of energy between them that is hard to put a label on. When Caleb showed back up in season 19, the writers were very deliberate about what they were doing. They were testing Amy. They were putting someone familiar, someone safe, someone who already knew all of her history right back in front of her. And they were watching to see what she would do. What made it even more interesting was what happened between Caleb and Nathan. The two of them ended up in a wilderness survival situation together, which sounds almost too dramatic to be real. But Heartland managed to make it feel completely earned. Two men who were essentially on opposite sides of Amy's heart, stuck out in the open with nothing but each other and the land around them. No audience, no Amy watching, just them having to figure out how to work together to get through it. And what came out of that situation was something nobody expected. A kind of quiet respect. Not friendship exactly, but an understanding. A moment where both men stopped seeing each other as competition and started seeing each other as people. That shift mattered. It mattered for Nathan's character because it showed that he was not threatened by Caleb in the way a less secure man would be. And it mattered for Caleb because it forced him to look honestly at what he actually wanted versus what he had just gotten used to wanting. The writers used that wilderness storyline to do something really clever. They resolved the love triangle without making anyone the villain. Nobody was the bad guy. They were just three people trying to figure out where their hearts actually lived. But just when things between Amy and Nathan started finding their footing again, Gracie Price walked back through the door and reminded everyone that love on Heartland never gets to stay simple for long. Gracie is Nathan's family, and family, especially family with money and legal power and a long memory, can do damage that no wilderness trip or a quiet campfire conversation can undo. Gracie had a legal grip on Price Beef that gave her enormous influence over Nathan's life. And she used every bit of that influence to make Amy feel like an outsider, not in loud, dramatic ways. Heartland does not usually go for loud and dramatic. Gracie worked the way the most dangerous people in real life work. With small comments, with cold looks, with the kind of politeness that has a blade hidden inside it. She made Amy feel like she did not belong in Nathan's world. And for a woman who was already questioning whether she deserved to be happy again, that was a particularly cruel kind of pressure to apply. There was a rodeo episode midway through season 19 that captured all of these tensions in one place at one time. Amy was there, Nathan was there, Caleb was there, Gracie was there, and the writers let all of those dynamics breathe in the same space without forcing a big confrontation. You could see Amy watching Nathan from across the arena and feeling two things at once: pride in who he was, and fear of what it would cost her to fully choose him. You could see Nathan watching her and doing the same quiet waiting he always did, hoping she would find her way to him without him having to pull her there. And you could see Caleb, finally, starting to make peace with something he had been holding onto for too long. By the time the season started moving toward its finale, something had shifted in Amy. It was not a dramatic shift. It was not a speech, or a breakdown, or a single moment of revelation. It was more like a slow exhale, like she had been holding her breath for a very long time and she was finally starting to let it out. She started letting Nathan in a little more. She started being present on the Pike River trip in her memories a little less. She started choosing, day by day, to be in the life that was in front of her instead of the one she had lost. And Nathan saw it. He felt it. And he decided that it was time. The Firefly proposal at the end of season 19 was not a surprise in the way that most TV proposals are surprises. It did not come out of nowhere. It was the natural ending of 2 seasons worth of patience and pain, and small, quiet moments of connection. Nathan had chosen the most Nathan way possible to propose. No restaurant, no crowd, no grand performance. Just the open night air, fireflies drifting around them like something out of a dream, and a ring held out by a man who had never once stopped believing that Amy Fleming was worth waiting for, and she said nothing. That silence is where season 19 ended. And that silence is the question that every single Heartland fan carried with them out of the finale and into the long wait for what comes next. There is a certain kind of silence that says everything, not the silence of someone who does not know what they want. Not the silence of someone who is confused or distracted or caught off guard. This was a different kind of silence. This was the silence of a woman standing at the edge of something enormous, looking down, and feeling every single thing she had ever been through rising up inside her all at once. The grief, the years of carrying everything alone. Lindy, growing up without her father. The mornings in the barn when she talked to horses because talking to people was too hard. All of it, every bit of it came rushing back in that one quiet moment under the fireflies. And that is why Amy could not speak. Not because she did not have an answer, but because the answer was connected to something so deep inside her that finding the words for it felt almost impossible. That is the scene Heartland left us with. And it is one of the most powerful endings the show has ever written, because it did not give the audience what they wanted in the moment. It gave them something better. It gave them a question that mattered. A question that was not just about Amy and Nathan, but about every person watching who has ever lost someone they loved and then had to figure out how to love again. That is the real reason this storyline has hit so hard. It is not just a television romance. It is a mirror. And a lot of people are seeing their own story reflected back at them in Amy Fleming's silence. So now let us talk about what that silence actually means and where season 20 could take all of this. The most important thing to understand about Amy's silence is that it was not a no. Every single storytelling cue in that finale scene pointed away from rejection. The way Amy looked at Nathan, the way her eyes filled, the way her hands moved slightly toward him before she stopped herself. The writers were not building toward a heartbreak ending. They were building towards something more complicated and more honest than a simple yes or no. They were building toward a moment of reckoning. Amy is not a woman who does things halfway. When she says yes to Nathan, and the weight of the storytelling strongly suggests that she will, it is going to mean that she has made a complete choice. Not a half-hearted one. Not a 1 foot in and 1 foot out choice. A full, deliberate, eyes-open decision to build a new life. And that decision is going to cost her something. That is what season 20 is going to be about. Because saying yes to Nathan does not just mean saying yes to a man. It means saying a different kind of goodbye to Ty. Not forgetting him. Not replacing him. But releasing him from the place inside her where she has been keeping him frozen in time. Moving him from the center of her daily life into the sacred space of memory where he belongs. And anyone who has ever lost someone they truly loved knows how hard that transition is. It does not feel like moving forward. In the beginning, it feels like betrayal. And Amy Fleming, who has always felt everything so deeply, is going to feel that more than most. This is the emotional story that season 20 has the potential to tell. And if the writers handle it the way they have handled the best parts of this arc, it could be the most powerful season of Heartland in years. Now let us talk about the people around Amy and Nathan, because their story does not exist in isolation. It exists inside a whole world of relationships that are all going to be affected by whatever Amy decides. Start with Lindy. Amy's daughter has grown up in a home that is full of Ty's memory. His photographs, his tools in the barn, his name spoken with love and weight by everyone around her. Lindy has never known a world where her mother was with someone other than her father. So a Nathan engagement does not just change Amy's life. It changes Lindy's entire world. And the question of how Lindy responds to Nathan stepping into a more permanent role in their lives is one of the most emotionally rich storylines season 20 could explore. Because children do not process these things the way adults do. Lindy is not going to sit down and have a logical conversation about grief and new beginnings. She's going to feel it in the small moments. A dinner where Nathan sits in a certain chair. A morning where he is the one who helps her with her boots. A moment where she almost calls him something and then stops herself. Those small moments are where Heartland does its very best work, and season 20 has all the ingredients to deliver them. Then there is Jack Bartlett, the grandfather, the backbone of the entire Heartland world. Jack has always been the person who holds the moral center of the show together. And Jack's relationship with Nathan has been carefully and deliberately written throughout the past 2 seasons. Jack does not give his trust easily. He never has. But he has been watching Nathan with the sharp eyes of a man who has seen a lot of life and knows the difference between a man who is performing goodness and a man who actually has it inside him. The moment when Jack fully accepts Nathan, not just tolerates him but genuinely accepts him as part of the Heartland family, is going to be a scene that breaks people in the best possible way. Because Jack's acceptance will mean something that no proposal or wedding or romantic gesture ever could. It will mean that Heartland itself has made room for Nathan. That the ranch, the land, the family that Ty loved so much has decided to love someone new. And then there is Gracie Price, who is not going anywhere. If season 20 brings Amy and Nathan into an engagement, Gracie is going to see that as a declaration of war. Because Gracie's problem with Amy has never really been about Amy specifically. It has been about control. About keeping Nathan inside the boundaries of the life and the world that the Price family built for him. An engagement to Amy Fleming means Nathan is choosing his own path over the one his family laid out. And people like Gracie do not accept that quietly. She has legal power over Price beef. She has family loyalty on her side. And she has the kind of cold, patient determination that makes her genuinely dangerous in a way that loud villains never are. The Gracie storyline in season 20 has the potential to be the most gripping conflict the show has produced in a long time. Because it is not going to be a physical fight or a dramatic showdown. It is going to be a slow, grinding battle over who Nathan Price actually is and who gets to decide that. And running underneath all of this, quiet and constant like a river beneath ice, is the question of Ty Borden's legacy. Ty is gone. But Ty is never really gone from Heartland. He's in the walls of that house. He's in the way Amy handles a frightened horse. He's in Lindy's face and in Jack's voice when he talks about what the ranch stands for. Season 20 is going to have to find a way to honor that legacy while also giving Amy permission to fully live without carrying it as a burden.